Triple H has responded to the allegations against Vince McMahon, talking about them in last night's Royal Rumble press conference. I'm going to tell you exactly what he said, why many people are calling his response to the allegations an embarrassment, not only to him, the company, professional wrestling, but also the victims, and why Cody Rhodes somehow managed to answer this question infinitely better than he did. All that and more coming up in this video. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I'm Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Let's get into it. So, obviously, this week has been a roller coaster of a week for WWE. They started the week announcing the $5 billion Netflix deal, The Rock joining the board of TKO, and then everything came to a screeching halt as it was revealed in this lawsuit by a former WWE employee that Vince McMahon allegedly started and coerced an employee into a relationship and did what I can only describe as shockingly vile and disgusting acts in this video. John Pollock and Brandon Thurston over on the Post did a good breakdown, I think, of the lawsuit, 67 pages, and kind of going through the main points of that. Honestly, it is not for the faint of heart. It is one of the most just hard to read pieces of media that I've read. It's just hard to read. So please go check that out if you want a full breakdown of the lawsuit over on the Post. But here I'm going to talk about Triple H's response. He was asked about the allegations against Vince McMahon and how things happened, and he did not provide much of a response. Here is the audio of his response, courtesy of WWE.
Look, we just had an amazing week. I just said a 10-year, $5 billion Netflix deal. Rock joining our board. We just sold out the Royal Rumble, put 48,000 people in the Tropicana Field. I choose to focus on the positive. And yes, there's a negative, but I want to focus on that and just keep it to that.
So there you heard Triple H saying that he wants to focus on the positive. That was his initial response to a question from John Alba from Fightful. And there were three outlets that did ask those questions about the allegations. And I'm not trying to fault anyone, and I'm not going to fault anyone who did not. I understand that this material is very sensitive, and you don't know what other people are going through, so I can't fault anyone for not asking those questions. But I'm glad that there are people in the wrestling media who do, take these very serious moments with responsibility and ask those questions. It was, I believe, Brandon Thurston, Seahawk, and John Alba who asked those questions. And there was obviously follow-up. Seahawk asked a question about what exactly WWE is doing to kind of stop this in the future. And Brandon Thurston actually asked Triple H straight up if he read the actual lawsuit or if he read the report, I believe. And Triple H's response about that specific piece was as follows. Did I read the lawsuit? I did not. We had an incredible week with the Netflix deal and The Rock joining as a board member. I don't dwell on the negatives. I choose to focus on the positives. So there we go. He's continuing to focus on the positives. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate on so many levels, because you do see the response online of people saying, hey, what do you expect him to do? That's his son-in-law, or he's going to be defending Vince McMahon no matter what. And that is a separate deal. And I understand the idea of Triple H not wanting to, say anything about his father-in-law. That's from a weird, whatever, personal level, that's a logical thing to think about. But at the same time, he is the figurehead for the company. He is the public face for the company, him being Triple H. This is someone who was at the podium. This is someone who is in charge of the day-to-day product that they are putting out. One of the key people in the company. And you would expect someone in that position, you would expect someone who has the media training that I'm sure Paul Levesque has, to at least have the common sense to say no comment. Instead, and this is what's most insulting. It would be one thing if he said no comment and just said, like, I can't comment on that for legal reasons, whatever. And it would still be bad, I think, but it wouldn't be as disrespectful. What he did was absolutely embarrassing and disrespectful to a whole host of people. Because he not only said, I choose to focus on the positive, as if he's just literally dismissing this entire situation. He chooses to focus on the positive, not dwell on the negatives. My guy, the negatives are that at your office, in your offices at Titan Tower in Connecticut, there were acts of horrible acts committed. This is the company that you are part of heading up. This is not just, I don't choose to focus on negative. This isn't a bad match rating. This isn't just, a negative PR from something that was misspoken or whatever. These are actions that happened while people at WWE knew. These are actions that happened in WWE's office, including other people who were executives at the company. John Laurinaitis, for example, implicating people, allegedly Brock Lesnar, WWE talent. It's not a negative that you dwell on. These are actions that happened. Someone was hurt. And the audacity for Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, whatever you want to call him, to say that we just signed a $5 billion Netflix deal. And, I didn't really read the lawsuit. You're telling me that a lawsuit or a report came out about your father-in-law who was heading up the company at the time, and all these things happen, and you haven't read it? You haven't skimmed it? You haven't even, read about it? It's not only shocking that he would admit to that, and it's goofy, it's clownish, it is dumb as all hell, but it just, I've said it before on this channel about the situation, I'll say it again. The culture does not shift until people decide to shift with it. And as long as you have people like Triple H who say that, I choose to focus on the positives. We had a great week. We had a great Rumble. All that crap. As long as you have that, you can never move forward. You can never make the necessary changes to ensure that this type of disgusting, shocking behavior does not happen again. And if you ask me, Triple H could learn a thing or two from Cody Rhodes, because the way Cody answered the question, I highly recommend everyone go check it out. Cody answered, was asked about this situation, and he answered it like not only a pro, but as someone you would expect in a position of power to answer it. I made the comparison. Of the last two people who went out in that press conference between Triple H and Cody Rhodes sounded like the only person who belonged in an executive position. It was embarrassing to see what Triple H did last night. It was absolutely embarrassing. Similar and very embarrassing, just like when Tony Khan at the World's End Media Conference was wearing that big hat and answering questions about Chris Jericho and those allegations. And the unfortunate part of this is, I don't know whether things are going to change. I don't know how WWE or wrestling in general moves forward. Because we could talk about the Royal Rumble. It was a great show, all that stuff. And I understand people wanted to talk about that. But this, if you ask me, is bigger. This, if you ask me, is about the corruption and this is about what power can do. Because if you read anything about the lawsuit that's been filed against McMahon, the allegations that have come out against McMahon, if you read anything about them, you will know that Vince McMahon is someone who not only willingly, knowingly, and fully like knowledgeable of his actions, abused his power, but also did so while many in WWE knew. It is, given where these events happened, given the nature of the relationship that McMahon allegedly had with this victim, it is very difficult for anyone who has critical thinking skills to believe that other executives in the company did not know and were not aware. I'm not saying they knew everything, but I'm sure they knew enough. And anyone, whether it was Triple H, Nick Khan, I don't care who, if they knew that this was going on and they not only stood by and did nothing, but allowed it to continue and chose to not only side essentially with Vince McMahon and it's embarrassing. That's all I can say. It is embarrassing. It's unfortunate. We talk all the time about how professional wrestling needs to move forward, how professional wrestling, was once, in a very dark place where people perceived wrestling as this grotesque, band of really toxic men who were willing to abuse their power, do whatever, and not really give a shit. Shows you how much we have not changed. Embarrassing, horrific, shocking. This entire situation, that's the only 3 words that ever come to mind when I'm talking about this or thinking about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released.